Hey everyone, my name is Siddhesh Lamghare and my roll number is 2501534. And the topic which I have chosen is India's cold chain crisis. Imagine working an entire year planting, watering, harvesting, and then watching 40% of everything which you grew simply rot before it reaches anyone's plate. And that's not hypothetical, that's Indian agriculture every single year. India is world's second largest producer of fruits and vegetables, and yet wastes nearly 1.5 lakh crores of rupees worth food every single year. And that's not because we grew too little, it's because we have nowhere cold enough to keep it. And this is the cold chain problem, and it's bleeding farmers, infiltrating your grocery bills, and quietly strangling one of the India's biggest economic opportunities. And so, what exactly is the cold chain? The cold chain is simply a temperature controlled supply chain network that moves perishable goods from farm to consumers without any spoilage. And here is what India looks like in numbers: 8,000 cold storage facilities, but 75% stores only potatoes. And tomatoes, milk, meat, medicine largely remain unprotected. Fewer than 10,000 refrigerated trucks for 1.4 billion people. And the post-harvest losses in vegetable run between 25 to 40% annually. And if we compare to different countries, USA has 3 lakh for their population and China has 2 lakh. And if you see, India has only 10,000. When we talk about farmers, it's a consumer trap. The farmer already spent money on seeds, water, labor, fertilizer, and when the crop rots in transit, he loses everything. And the consumer still has to higher pay higher prices because market supply is low. And here both end loses, and only the middleman is insulated over here. And this is not just a bad luck; it's an infrastructure failure with a measurable price tag. And why it matters beyond farming is like if we see for the doctors, India's vaccine cold chain is the exact same problem. The gap that let tomatoes rot also compromises vaccine storage in rural areas. And the wastage in some states run at 25%. For engineers and architectures, India needs 35 million cubic metrics of additional cold storage. And that's for warehouses, logistic networks, port infrastructure, a massive unsolved design problem we have. And for everyone, this drives food inflation directly. When onion hits 100 rupees a kilo, it's often a production failure. It's not often a production failure. It's a storage failure. Cold chain is an inflation stabilizer India does not have. So why hasn't that been fixed? If the problem is so obvious, what has gone wrong and what are the reasons? And the three reasons which I have come up with is first is its capital, in this process is capital intensive and a long payback period is there. So private investors don't come without government risk sharing. The second would be fragmented land holdings make local cold storage commercially unviable. And nobody builds a facility to serve 51 acres of farms. The third would be the policy schemes like PM Kisan Sampada exist, but implementation is patchy. And the last mile, the actual refrigerated trucks remain the weakest link. So, what is the way forward? And the this is like unexecuted. The first would be viable gap funding for cold storage operators in tier 1 and tier 2 districts, where the need is highest, but the returns are the lowest. Second would be a national cold chain grid model like on telecom towers, like shared infrastructure, multiple users, and regulated pricing. Third would be the solar price micro cold units at cluster levels, owned by farmer produce organizations, and the technology exists. The fourth would be the mandatory cold storage handling at all major railway terminals. India Railway already moves agriculture food, and but it does not keep them cold. And so at the end, the cold chain isn't a niche topic. It's where the food security, farmers' income, and public health and inflation all intersect. And the refrigerator exists. India just need to make one big enough. So I think that's it from my end. Thank you so much.